Lydia and Franklin's apartment was quiet. The agents were gone. Preparing for another mission, and without my own newspaper to report to, it gave me cause to think. As I looked over the footage of the City Main women talking about the arrest of the triplets, my attention was drawn to a group of Capasso brothers in the background. Had Mayor Phelps pledged, I wondered? It appeared everyone in the city with authority was a brother. Without Hicksy's present, it seemed even CPD wasn't willing to hold them to account, and not just for the shooting of Sarah or the disappearance of Tawny, but for a whole mess of cover-ups that had been going on for years. That was when the latest issue of Colford Daily dropped through the letterbox. Owen family stands strong. On the front page were three Capasso brothers, Chad Perry, Dale Cooper and Buddy Owen. The photo had been taken on Harvester Farm. The three brothers were smiling nicely. The article discussed the death of Robert Bobby Owen. Buddy expressed his grief coherently. He was pleased to have his fraternity brothers with him for support. He was also pleased to be building friendships on Harvester Farm. It's what Pops would have wanted. Capasso were good young men from prime stock with elite family names. They were future leaders. That nasty old pen had attacked them. Those vulgar Macs, who were always causing trouble, had set out to assault them. That was what the article would have the reader believe. An Owen-owned newspaper was never going to print anything else. I looked at the article writer. It had been composed by Eric Waddell, the daily editor himself. It seemed none of the other journalists would do. I had recognised his writing style. I'd read lots of Eric's work before. The words Buddy was quoted as saying, his explanation, it had been Eric that had put them there. They were written to be clear on the Pen and Mac villainy and sketchy on the details as to why they had attacked the chapter house in the first place. That was why I had to write the truth. I didn't set out to make anyone in particular look good or bad. I wanted to make clear the real shades of Colford so that people could decide for themselves. Even with Tawny's face everywhere, people were starting to forget. They were forgetting about the missing Baroness, forgetting about the little girl gunned down in the street. I would not let Sarah be forgotten. I caught up with Buddy Owen outside of City Main Harvester Store. He had been making himself useful to the brand by taking on deliveries, no doubt having express orders to ingratiate himself to the harvesters. At least that was how it seemed. The truth was, he had come in search of powder. Most of his contacts had gone into hiding. He didn't have his two companions in tow. Buddy was storming back towards the harvester van, shoulders hunched and grumbling to himself. I managed to catch up with him. "Buddy, Bernard." He stopped and offered a skill. "Geez, bro, where the fuck did you come from?" he returned. He didn't really recognise me, which wasn't surprising. We'd only been in each other's company once before. He and his father were touring their newspapers, and he had come to Colford daily. At the time, he seemed to have more of an interest in my fellow writer Madeline. I would have been lucky if he even remembered my name. "Would you look at the eyebrows on you?" Buddy challenged. "Can I ask you some questions?" "Fuck off, dude." I ignored Buddy's refusal. "How are you coping with the death of your grandfather?" I put to him. Buddy frowned. "The fuck do you think I'm doing? Get the fuck out of my way." I'd already hit record on my phone. "Does your Uncle Jerry know his accuser has gone missing? Does he know the girl he tried to rape was given the death penalty?" "Dude, seriously, take your fucking eyebrows and your little notebook and fuck off," was his suggestion. Buddy had just returned from City Main when he received a call from the Cappy. "Yeah, I'm still on Harvester Farm," he explained to son. "So I can tell," the father said. "I was stopped by a pair of eyebrows claiming to be a reporter," Buddy said. Chick nodded. "Yeah, they've swarmed the estate. I've had to send a crew to bring your chapter house into order and take your grandfather's body and have it buried proper." "Sure," Buddy said solemnly. Chick went on. "We may have a bigger problem. I don't know what concern finding that club bar clown is of Breckenridge Tower, but Elizabeth Breckenridge is making it her business. She's also making her business to invest in that farm you now stand upon." Buddy was starting to become bored. So, boy, do you have any idea how much that Harvester brand could be worth? The influence they could have in this city with the proper push behind them?" Buddy just wanted to go home. The smell of manure was starting to give him a headache. The want for some powder up his nostrils was making him frustrated. "You'll stay on that farm and you'll make yourself mighty useful. No more going into the City Main until I arrive," the father instructed. "Ingratiate yourself, bring the harvesters into the fold, and perhaps you may find yourself worthy of my chair one day." "Oh, you gotta be kidding me, bro," Buddy thought inwardly. "Not after what Chad did to that chair." "Keep your bros in line. Work hard." It sounded as though the Cappy was signing off. "Oh, and Bernard, if I find out that you're lying about the whereabouts of Miss McKinney and your grandfather, my father died as a result, you and I are going to go for a long walk." If it weren't for respect of my father and his wishes, you'd be on your way back to me right now. Now lay low, charm the halves to farm hands, and make yourself useful to them in any way they need. Am I clear?" "Yeah," Buddy replied. "Yes, what?" "Yes, sir." Buddy closed the call. He looked across the fields where he could see Julia tending to the meat herd. She looked up and caught him watching. She smiled and she waved, and he waved back. The milking sheds were where Buddy and his bros decided they liked best. Buddy tried his hand at farm work, more to impress Julia than to appease his father. It turned out that being the golden boy of a ranch and doing actual farm work were two completely different things. It was muddy, smelly, and a complete pain in Buddy Owen's ass. "The milking herd needs dealt with," Curtis warned. "Oh, dude, I ain't milking no fucking cows, dude," Buddy protested. Chad clasped his nipples. "It's easy, bud. You just grab and pull. Yo, Coops, you try. And grab my nipples." Cooper, leaning against the fence with his arms folded, shook his head. "I ain't tugging on your titties, bro." Buddy shoved Chad, starting to chuckle. "Dude, you don't have milk. You're not a fucking cow." Julia Harvester, carrying an empty bucket of feed, approached them. "Something wrong, boys?" she asked in a sweetened tone, as though she hadn't noticed the commotion that was starting to gather between them. Chad had stopped dead. He was still clasping his nipples. Buddy punched his shoulder again so he would stand straight. "I grew up on a ranch," Buddy stuttered. "My family, they own a ranch." Julia smiled. "So you must be right at home here then." Buddy nodded his head smoothly. "Oh, I got it all under control, don't you worry yourself." A Great States cowboy was surely impressive. Julia Harvester of the Harvester brand didn't seem to be so sure though. "Well, that's good," she said. "You know then that the milking herd can get a little uncomfortable if they aren't milked." "Yeah," Buddy agreed. "I was just telling my bros that those titties gotta be juiced." "Don't worry," Julia assured. "You'll learn. I bet you can ride a horse better than anyone, though." Buddy beamed at the massage of his ego. "Oh yeah, I ride. I ride really good. I ride better than anyone." Julia gave a coy giggle. "I'll bet you do. Maybe later you can ride with me, but right now what we need is milking." She took his hand and stretched out his index finger. She clutched it softly but firmly. "It's easy," she smiled, catching him in eye contact. "You just hold the teat firm." She began to run her hand along his finger's length and tug gently. "The milk will come out." Buddy's mouth was agape. The brothers were staring at it too. "Milk," she stroked. "Milk, milk, milk." Buddy was lost in sensation of her grip. She dropped his hand. "I'll do it myself, but I'm just so busy." "Oh, we're gonna milk the shit out of those cows. That right, bros?" Buddy straightened his shoulders and stuck out his chest. "No worries there, ma'am. Back home, we have a ranch, and we have cows. I know cows." He hoped he was having some kind of cowboy appeal. "Just you leave it to us." Coops nodded. Chad added an enthusiastic, "Got your back, bro." Buddy stuck his chest out again. He tightened his shoulders, hoping she would notice his natural swimmer's build. "They'll do the thing you need," Julia giggled. "If you could do some milking, we would appreciate it." Buddy watched her leave. A few paces ahead, she stopped, turned and flashed him a smile. "To the milking shed, bros. We got some titties to juice," Buddy announced. Julia passed Glenn, who had been watching the entire affair from a distance. She rolled her eyes. Glenn gave a laugh. "Keep an eye on them," she ordered. Debs, Harvester Farm's largest dairy cow, shuffled and groaned distractedly as Buddy clutched onto two of her teats. "Milk, milk, milk," he chanted as he squeezed and started to fill a metal bucket. Cooper found himself at the excretion end of the animal. Standing underwhelmed, he watched Debs relieve herself onto the shed floor. The Capsule bro wrinkled his nose. "Chad!" Buddy called to the brother on the other side of the cow. "What the fuck are you doing, bro?" Chad was pulling on the teat vigorously like a porn star tugging on a throbbing cock. He stopped, spat on it, and continued with gusto. Cooper's eyes widened as he leaned over to inspect what was going on. "Chad!" Buddy called again. Chad finally stopped. "Sorry, bud," he said. "I was just doing what the smoking hot farm chick showed us." Buddy and Cooper shared an astonished look. "She didn't spit on it, bro." Debs became restless. She took a few steps forward, almost knocking the bucket over. "You see," Chad objected, "she fucking loves that shit." Debs shook her head and cried out again. Buddy grinned. "Suck it," he teased. His facial expression dissolved into a mischievous grin. Chad looked to Cooper, who said nothing but raised an eyebrow. Chad giggled. He shuffled forward to reach Debs again. He gripped the teat and stuck his tongue out. Before he could close his mouth around it, Buddy grabbed the other teat and squirted the milk in Chad's face. "Oh, dude, it's so fucking warm," Chad stated. The other two began to laugh. Chad joined in. Buddy had been laughing so hard he fell against Debs, who started to object. "Moo," she complained. Buddy slapped her hand. "Shut up before I turn you into a goddamn steak." Debs tried to turn, knocking into Cooper, who ended up with the rest of her feces on him. She bumped into Buddy again too. Her strength almost knocked him from his feet and into the deposit she had left on the floor. "Shit, we gotta calm this fucking thing down," yelled the Capiso chapter leader. He snatched up a branding iron. There was nothing to heat it, but swung with enough force it could severely injure even a well-built animal like Debs. "Buddy, bro, I wouldn't do that," said Coops. "Why, I'm just gonna knock it the fuck out. That's what you do, right? You put these things out of their misery." The humiliation from Reginald Penn, the chastising from the Cappy, the missing golden cock, all of it boiled in Buddy Owen. "Bud," warned Coops, "I don't think that's how you calm them down, bro." Chad, who had cleaned his face with an old rag, offered his expertise. "Yeah, dude, I think that might just piss it off." Between the three oh-so-genius minds they possessed, they each suggested ways of calming Debs so they could get their milking done, all of which the poor animal objected to quite vehemently. Bang, bang, bang! The bro stopped dead. In the doorway, glaring brutally, was Glenn. He was clutching his cattle prod tightly by his side. If you may imagine the scene he uncovered, you will understand why the farmhand was annoyed. The bros filtered out of the barn. Glenn watched them with his lip curled, keeping the doorway as blocked as his frame would allow so they could be forced to squeeze past him with their heads lowered. When they had cleared the area, he approached the animal and gave her a soothing pat on the neck. "Don't listen to them, lass," he said. "They're just arseholes." The bros continued their farm work that afternoon surprisingly quietly, until they were interrupted by a little girl. When they took note of her, she tried to run, but she bumped into a bucket of manure, almost knocking it over. "What you doing?" Chad asked as Coops stepped in her way. "Get out of my way," the little girl growled. She lifted her foot and kicked Coops in the shin. Coops stepped aside as he tried to massage his leg. She squealed and she ran. Her exit from the stables was prevented by Buddy. "Whoa, where are you going?" he asked. "Let me go, shithead, or I'll call my daddy." Buddy frowned. "And who the fuck is your daddy?" "Him." The little girl pointed outside. Glenn was directing some of the farmhands in the West Acre as they started to round up the meat herd. Buddy thought about the Cappy's warning again. He thought about Glenn's reaction to the bros meeting his daughter. Mostly he thought about Julia's titties. "Yo, take it easy, little chick," he urged. "My name's Buddy." "Dude, we got enough shit up our asses without the kid making a fuss," Buddy reasoned. Chad sniggered. "Oh, shut the fuck up," Buddy warned, but started to chuckle. "You know what I meant. We will find the golden cock, we will get back to the chapter house, and I'm totally gonna bone that farm chick." "Sure, Bud," Chad agreed. Buddy turned back to the little girl who had sat herself on a bale of hay. "You're alright, little chick. He won't hurt you," he said of Chad, who she had been watching closely. The little girl pursed her lips and folded her arms. "I'll kick his balls if he tries." Buddy laughed heartily. To his brothers he said, "I like her. She reminds me of my mama." "What's your name?" "Susie," the little girl answered. "Do you know the farm lady?" he pressed. Susie frowned. "You mean Julia?" "Yeah, she's my friend. She gave me a room in the farmhouse all to myself." "Cool," Buddy replied. "Listen, if you talk me up to her and tell her what a stand-up guy am, I'll totally make it worth your while." Susie grinned. Her full cheeks reddened. "You fancy her?" she put to the Capiso leader. Buddy's grin extended further. "You don't understand, kid. When adults like each other, and I mean really like each other, they really want to bone, and I really want to bone that farm chick." Susie giggled and had her mouth behind her hand. Buddy laughed too. He enjoyed playing Big Brother. His real sister, Beth, was a pain in the ass, but little Susie, with her Bolton spirit, charmed him. "She has lots of boyfriends," Susie explained, "but I like you. I want you to be her boyfriend." Buddy cheered. "Sure you do." He lifted the little girl up and heaved her onto his shoulder. "'Cause we are Capiso, little chick, and you're our new mascot. Any of y'all want to mess with my little sis, you're gonna have me to deal with." Susie giggled as Buddy paraded her around the barn. "We are Capiso," we cried. "What are we?" "We're Capiso," Susie replied in a cheer. "Fuck yeah, we are." "Susie," barked Glenn, who had taken note of his daughter's disappearance from the farmhouse. Buddy laid Susie down. "I just came to pet the horses," the little girl explained. "We were just playing, Daddy." Glenn was unmoved. His focus was on Buddy, although he spoke to the girl. "Get back in the house," he ordered. "But Daddy, can't I pet the horses?" "Now," Glenn barked. Susie said nothing further. She gave one last smile to Buddy before slipping off back to the farmhouse. Glenn's scowl was severe. "Stay away from my daughter," he warned the bros. There would be no misunderstanding the seriousness of his statement. Buddy raised his hand. "Dude, she came to us. She's a cute kid. We were just playing around." Glenn took in all three of them. "Just get on with your work." Buddy returned to work with a lighter air. Susie would be telling Julia how much she liked him. Buddy liked Little Mascot. Like all mascots, she was going to spur the team on to victory. Susie came rushing into the farmhouse, where she found Julia at the kitchen table with Dr. Nathan Watt. Nathan had been in charge of her father's care before Winslow took over and confined the old harvester to Harbour House. He and Julia remained close friends. She had expressed something of an interest in being a couple and sharing a life together. She had made it clear, though, that nothing could happen until she had secured the stability on her farm. The stability was there now, but the affection she promised were not. She was probably one of the most sought-after women in the shady city. Not only was she beautiful and alluring, but she also brought a long-established name with her. Julia Harvester had her fair share of suitors. Nathan could only continue to hope she meant to keep her promise. He just had to hope a better option didn't come along in the meantime. "Jules, Jules," Susie called excitedly. "I was talking to the man in the stables, and he likes you." Julia laughed. Now, Buttercup, don't go spreading stories." "He does," insisted Susie. "Buddy said he's my bro, and he wants to bone you." Julia laughed again. Nathan was frowning, though. "Susie," Julia chastised, "that's not the way for a young lady to speak." "It's true, though," Susie continued her protest. "I'm the new Capisso mascot." "Keep away from those boys, Susie," Nathan warned. "Your father wouldn't want you talking to them." Ignoring Nathan, Susie spoke to Julia. "I like Buddy. He's funny. He should be your boyfriend, Jules. Daddy said he's a fucktard, whatever that means, but you like him, right?" "Sure, Susie," Julia assured. "I like Buddy." Susie was content with this. She felt she had completed her duties well. Dr. Nathan Watt wasn't so sure, though. He didn't like that Julia was allowing Capisso such leeway on the farm. The rectory was silent. There were many candles lit, like sparkling little jewels, but Nan Harvester, mother to Julia and head of Harvester Farm, lit another. A gust of wind caused it to dance as though it was taking a message to her dearly departed husband Jacob. She clasped the St. Wiggin pin in her chest and bowed her head in prayer. Her thoughts were soon interrupted by the door to the rectory clicking closed behind her. She looked up to find Dr. Winslow. She smiled a pleasant smile. "My girl knew you were here, Doctor. She would have some repercussions for you." Winslow raised his hands in submission. "It wasn't her I came to see," he said. "It was your good self. How have you been, my dear?" "Just fine, Doctor, just fine," she replied. "Being a widow suits you," Winslow commented. "Grief can always look becoming on a woman if worn a certain way. Right now my focus is on my children and my foundation. I'd like to get involved with your foundation. The Owens owe me some support." "I knew the Reverend Owen very well. He was one of the charity's biggest supporters. My little kiddies did so well from him." Winslow grinned. "You needn't play any pretenses with me, my dear. I know all about the girls the Reverend had shipped over using the foundation. I was the one to assess them." Nan clutched the Wiggin pin on her chest. She turned back to her candle. "We're the best of friends, Doctor, but as I said, my daughter would not be best pleased with you being here. A mother has to protect her little children." "Family is of the utmost importance," agreed Winslow. "As you will know from your husband's care, we are all like family." Nan closed her eyes as though in prayer. "What's your point?" "I have a generous donation to give your foundation. It can be made available any time. I'm trying to reopen Harbour House, and I need your support in shooing off those pesky lawmakers. Your daughter could make trouble for me in doing this. She's an ambitious girl and needs a mother's loving guidance." Nan opened her eyes again, but kept her focus on the altar. "I heard that Mickey managed to halt the investigation for the time being. Things became, shall we say, difficult to manage. Julia busied herself trying to escape my grasp when all I ever wished was to help her flourish." Nan blessed herself. "Yes, you told me all about what you wanted to do with her," she tutted. "Looking for more of the same then, are you? In exchange for a generous donation, you can make sure your daughter plays nice while I clear the mess and have my facility reopened?" Nan asked. "How generous?" Winslow grinned. Keen that he was making headway, Winslow had some old scores to settle with Buddy Owen, and it wouldn't be Julia who would give him that opportunity. It would be Nan. With the Breckenridge firm and Owen Inc. conducting a bidding war to become investors in the brand, he wanted a piece of that pie. "As generous as it needs to be," he said. Nan took his hand in hers, her long, bony digits clasped tightly. She closed her eyes, bowed her head, and clutched her Wiggin pin again. "Pray with me, Doctor," she said. There were a few acres between the Harvester farm and their nearest neighbours, but as Nan drove her harvester van towards the main farm route, Mrs. Perlman was passing the opposite way in her own pickup truck and flagged her down. Nan pulled gently to a stop. Mrs. Perlman did likewise and climbed out. The two women met at the side of a quiet, dusty road. "How are you, Nan?" Mrs. Perlman asked, amicably. Nan smiled sweetly. Good, as well as can be expected." Mrs. Perlman gave a suitably sympathetic smile. "If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know." Nan reached out and took the other woman's hand. Mrs. Perlman took note of the tea-linen dress Nan wore. It wasn't completely funeral black. There was a white feather pattern across it. The wig and pin still sat proudly on her breast. "When the ladies and I heard about poor Jacob dying in hospital, we rushed right round to check on young Julia. Yeah, she told me about the beautiful basket the ladies gave her and how delicious Mrs. Manning's pot roast was." "We haven't seen you around for a while," Mrs. Perlman commented, "or your boy Jonathan." Nan needed to go. She had promised she would be around to check on the new arrivals. "My foundation was keeping me busy abroad," she said. "John was kind enough to come along and assist me." Mrs. Perlman nodded consolingly. "I've been watching all the news about your charity. You're doing great work for those young girls." Nan beamed. "We've now reached more countries than ever, helping little girls get educated, setting them up, giving them a start in life. When Jacob and I did our little tour before John was born, I saw all those little girls and the lives they were destined for. I just knew I had to do something." Mrs. Perlman agreed. "You're a kind soul. The ladies and I are having lunch next Friday at your Havsler Cafe in Maine. Do come along and join us. Bring Julia too. The ladies just love Julia." Nan began to put distance between herself and her neighbour. "Well, that sounds lovely, but I must dash. There's still so much to be done." "Oh, don't let me keep you," Mrs. Perlman was apologetic. "Call me though if you need anything, and I'll pop right round." Nan opened the van door again. "Thank you, you're too kind." With a wave, the two women parted. Nan drove the van along the path that led onto Havsler Farm and to the house. She parked the van in front of the entrance to the farmhouse. In the main hall, Jonathan was waiting for her with a phone in his hand. "The new arrivals have just come in," he stated. Nan kissed his lips. Long, lingering. "Go check that those frat boys aren't tearing up the fields again. I'll look at the new arrivals from the study." "Yes, Mum," he said. The house was quiet. Everyone was busy. Nan locked the study door behind her. One couldn't be too careful. The home screen on the computer was a photo of her, Jacob and their two children, smiling widely, full of hopes, full of love, a happy family. She clicked on the notification. She was more computer savvy than most people her age. She had taken some classes at Colford Central Library. William was a very patient and very informative instructor. The notification brought her to a series of photographs. They were of a girl, aged 12, black. She had full lips and a ripe young body. She was bound and gagged. Her eyes were rolling with the drugs they had given her. She was bruised badly. They had been violent in their extraction, but never mind. Nan smiled. She lifted the phone. It was time to let the Foundation supporters know the new arrivals were in place.